It begins in your chest. The moment after you feel it, that pang that paralyzes you, that knowing that danger nears. Heart beats faster, cold sweat, trembling. It has you now, and there is a part of you that welcomes it. But why? Why, in certain circumstances, can fear feel good? So, let's begin, shall we?
I get this feeling inside, Belle. I'm so scared.
Fear, the most primitive of instincts, wildly powerful and entirely involuntary, for good reason. Fear is why our species and countless others have survived to this day. The ability to recognize danger as quickly as possible has proved incredibly valuable. How sharp your fear instinct is could result in you being a fraction of a second faster than the predator sizing you up from across the way. And whether you choose to fight or flight, that instinct will send your brain and body into chemical overdrive, giving you what you need to survive. Adrenaline will course through your body for strength. Glucose will be released for energy, and cortisol will flood your system, shutting down functions that drain your energy unnecessarily. These might include your immune, digestion, and reproductive systems, as well as the growth of healthy cells. After all, you don't need those systems to escape danger in the short term. And so, in the short term, you become somewhat superhuman. And to anyone who has felt it, there is something in that experience that feels powerful. Now, how can fear feel powerful? To find out, let's have a look at the average person's day. No matter where you live in the world, chances are your average day is somewhat routine. You might wake up, go to work, eat your meals, tend to your chores, and settle in for the evening at roughly the same time and in the same way every single day. While there is certainly nothing wrong with that, one has to admit that there is a sense of tedium involved. No matter how satisfied you are with your life, it can still get boring.
I'm always happy, unless I'm bored.
Fear is a spike in that calm water. It jolts you out of that tedium and springs you into supercharged action. The surge of power brought on by fear can feel intoxicating. This explains why we love scary movies. We get to safely experience that initial hit of fear, which will trigger the chemical response that sends us into overdrive. Then, once the brain realizes we are safe and there is no real danger, it releases the really good stuff.
How do you feel?
Groovy.
Pleasure-inducing opioids called endorphins, along with dopamine, a chemical linked to the brain's reward center. After the fear has passed, this is our reward for surviving. Natural, drug-induced relief. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. But what happens when the feeling of danger never goes away? What happens if that relief never comes? Our fear response evolved during a time when large predators posed the biggest threat to our survival. Those days are long gone, but the response is just as active as ever. But now, our predators are mounting debt, widespread disease, job security, corrupt elites, climate change, and ever-increasing social division, to name only a handful. The list goes on and on, depending on who you ask, of course.
Humbug.
Our predators have moved into our minds, locking us in a continued state of fear. Subconsciously, We think that if we keep focusing on these modern predators, then we will always be one step ahead of the danger they pose. We watch the news for this very reason, to see what is coming, so that we can hunker down and prepare for the worst. The worst. That's exactly what cable news offers, isn't it? Fear the worst before it's too late. Fear the national debt. Fear global poverty. Fear immigration. Fear endemic disease. Fear your unvaccinated neighbor. Fear your vaccinated neighbor. Fear increasing natural disasters. Fear imminent war. Fear the end of you.
And that's a lot to carry.
If you fear everything they tell you to, maybe you'll survive. However, the body cannot live in survival/fear mode for very long before it begins to break down. With the chemicals that regulate your healthy biology out of whack, you can expect to experience any of the following: insomnia, mood swings, extreme cravings, afternoon sleepiness, anxiety and/or depression, weight gain, digestion, fertility and regenerative issues, hazy mind and poor memory, weak immune system.
Stop it!
No, these are not normal aspects to life. In a society where stress/fear has been normalized, so have its symptoms. The majority of us have at least one of these ailments and probably more. Though instead of understanding and treating stress/fear properly, we medicate it. We treat the symptoms instead of the disease. A pill for every problem. That is our solution. And for some, it works quite well, temporarily. But it is not a cure. More symptoms will arise that require more medications. Relief will never come so long as fear remains. No amount of medication will solve that, because no amount of medication can help us deal with the reason why we are afraid in the first place. Simply put,
I don't want to die and leave this lie behind me.
we are afraid to die. Fear is the drive to life, to live and not die. Fear arises when there is a possibility that death is approaching. We hold tight to fear because it keeps us attentive to possible dangers. When we are looking for something bad to happen, we feel like we are doing something to protect ourselves, that we are being vigilant, responsible. The fear feels productive. Rather than just sitting around waiting for something to happen, we proactively seek the danger. We make it present and focus all of our attention on it. We indefinitely stay in survival mode because it feels safer, even though we continue to get sicker. Another consequence of living in a state of fear is that we begin to lose our humanity. We start seeing people who don't agree with us as the other, a risk to our survival, a special class of people that is actively harming us and the world we live in. Under those circumstances, it is easy to justify extreme measures to make those others comply, no matter how much we must bend them first. It is for the good of us all, right?
Madness in great ones must not unwatched go.
Fear breeds exclusion and leads to the most atrocious acts that human beings are capable of. Fear makes it easy for those who know how to control by dividing us. We are much more willing to give up our freedoms and rights if we feel the exchange will keep us safe. And we are far more likely to be prejudiced against a whole group of people if our government and media says we should. Especially if they are framed as the ones putting us and our loved ones in danger. Permissible hate fueled by uncontrolled fear is a recipe for disaster. So what is to be done? How can fear be overcome and even learned from?
I don't want to be afraid through all of this.
Let's start with learning from fear. The things we are afraid of don't just pop out of the blue. They are deep-seated, far-reaching, and above all, meaningful. Some fears are instinctual. Think spiders, while others are conjured based on limiting beliefs. Think self-doubt.
Tell me it's not you, Elmer Fudd.
Distinguishing between instinctual and conjured fears is the first step to getting to the root of the fear. A fear of spiders is embedded in our genes, an instinctual fear that helped us avoid deadly predators. But a fear of public speaking can reveal a lack of confidence rooted in a more subconscious issue. Both fears feel equally real, but while one could possibly be life-threatening, one is merely due to not receiving enough encouragement growing up. Once we understand the root of the fear, we can begin to heal it through meditative and/or cognitive therapies. Our fears can teach us what mental blocks are holding us back from living a more authentic life. Fear is not all bad, but when allowed to have full control over your mind, it can quickly turn destructive.
I am the danger.
So, how does one stop being controlled by fear? It's obvious, isn't it? If the ultimate fear is of death, then the only cure for that fear is to stop being afraid of death. Easy, right?
And it also leaves behind the greatest gift that anyone can give another, which is the courage to face death.
Fear is a state of mind, and even though it might not feel like it at times, we are in complete control of our state of mind. Fear is not real. It is your mind trying to protect you from the inevitable. You and everyone you love will die. It doesn't matter how much you do to lock the world out, how many walls you build, how much you disinfect your environment, or even how healthy you keep yourself. Death will find a way in and take everything. No matter what political party you belong to, what religion you worship, what vaccinations you have, you too will die. This used to feel very grim to me. I didn't want to look at it either. I didn't want to lose everything, everyone I love, everything I know. I was afraid too. But then I found peace when I remembered something very important.
But then I learned the secret. I didn't even need to be sad anymore.
What secret?
Dead doesn't mean gone. So, you don't need to be sad.
The ones we love are not just mortal bodies that have an expiration date. They are immortal souls that we sing in symphony with while we get to experience this extraordinary thing called life. We live and love and suffer and rejoice and finally die so that more life can spring up around us and do it all over again. And that life is what we are. We can't die if dying means to stop existing. We always have been, and we always will be. It's just the form that changes. Like the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, we transform, not perish. So, it seems to me that the only sane way to proceed in life is with a heart full of love and courage. A courage so grounded in an authentic knowing of your true self that absolutely nothing could knock you out of it. Even if the whole world floods, you would simply smile and embrace death like an old friend as the waves take you away. Fear is far too weak to stand in the way of courage. You are too strong to be ruled by fear. And when you truly remember that, yes, remember, your life will cease to be led by fear and you will emerge as the powerful, eternal soul that you have always been. It just takes a little courage. Thank you so much for sticking around with me to the end of the video. Please let me know in the comments what you thought, or if you just want to say hi. Comments and likes really help me with the algorithm, so I appreciate it when you take the time to engage with my videos. And I love hearing from you, so please don't be shy. And lastly, to keep this channel sponsor-free, I have links to my various projects, including my children's book series, Spiral Fairy Tales. Please consider checking them out if you get any value from my content. So until next time, I wish you light, love, and harmony. Thank you for joining me.